everybody. My name is Anna Laurent, and I am here with PASAC, which stands for the Purchase Area Sexual Assault and Child Advocacy Center. We made the name really long and complicated so that you can just say PASAC. And so we are here. I'm just going to start talking to you about basically our mission and things like that. And then this is Nichole, and she's going to go into it more in depth after me.
We really appreciate everybody being here today. Thanks for coming out.
And so overall, our mission is to support families, strengthen survivors, and to engage communities. And so what that really means for PASAC is that we are actually the state-designated Rape Crisis and Child Advocacy Center, which just means we're super good at our jobs, and we're super awesome. And so really our job starts off with that clinical aspect, and so the therapy and things like that. And the really cool thing about PASAC is that we actually have an ETC, an Expressive Therapy Center. So our clients actually have the opportunity to control what they do in those sessions, and so they can paint, they can use puppets, we have a lot of children, we have a sandbox they can use, and things like that. And so we're very unique here at our Paducah location, which is like 2 minutes down the road if you ever want to stop by for a tour. We actually have a whole building dedicated to that. And there's a yoga room and everything like that. And then we also have an advocacy component. And so we not only support survivors, we also support their families, because we know that just because what has happened in that trauma, that might not be the only thing that's going on in that family's life. They might have a difficult time accessing services. They might not have transportation and things like that. And so we not only focus on our clients, we focus on their families and their environment. And so we have family advocates that are there to really support their families while their child or they themselves are going through therapy. We also have legal advocates. And so if they are pursuing justice in that way, we have an advocate that is there to walk them through that process every step of the way and make it a lot less scary. And then we also have Nichole, who's actually our forensic interviewer, and she'll go more into that. I'll let her explain it. And then we have our community engagement and prevention team, which is what I do, and also Lila Bacon, she's here in the audience today supporting us, and she's our volunteer coordinator. And so what we do is, our joke is that we are trying to work our therapists out of a job. We really want us to no longer have clients. We want to end the violence that's happening in our community and the purchase area as a whole. So what that looks like for us is we basically just go and do prevention programs. Anyone that will have us, we're going to go and we're going to do it. And so those programs start from pre-K. We do body safety, good touch, bad touch, that sort of thing, all the way up to college students, about consent, what that actually means, and about toxic relationships, healthy relationships, and things like that. And then we also do a Green Dot program, which is all about going into high schools and talking about bystander intervention for power-based personal violence. And so we're all about empowering whoever you are in the community to really help and do your part in ending violence overall. And then also what we do is we do a lot of like internet safety and things like that. And we also have a program for community members called Darkness to Light. And it really helps inform community members on how they can help end child sexual abuse. It's actually a 2.5-hour program. You get a certificate at the end saying you took it. And it really takes an issue that can often seem really depressing and like there is nothing we can do, and that's not true. And that's really a large part of our community engagement job, is to go and help people see what they can do to help end this violence. And so that's just a grand overview, and now Nichole's going to go a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, so again, my name is Nichole Wadley. I am the forensic program coordinator at our center, but my background is in clinical psychology. I'm a therapist as well. So today, what I'd like to do is give you a little more information about our advocacy program, our forensic program, and our clinical program. So for our clinical program in the last year, we have served more than 700 survivors or individuals who have been infected by or impacted by sexual violence. Of that, over 700, more than 100 of those were in that college age range of 18 to 24. Over 400 of those were children. So just providing those numbers because a lot of people don't understand how prevalent that is in our society here in West Kentucky even. We, as our center, like Anna mentioned, are able to provide those services free of charge. I'd like to start with those clinical services and talking about that. In therapy, sometimes people think about, oh, I'm going to sit on a chair, I'm going to lay on a couch, I'm going to talk to someone about what I'm feeling or about my past or about my family. And it's a lot more than that, because we know when individuals experience interpersonal violence, talking about it or even finding the words to explain what they experience can be a real challenge for them. So like Anna was talking about, we offer a variety of methods of being able to work through the things that have happened to us so that we can have a bright and happy future. And those things that have happened to us in our past are something that's not going to predict our future, right? And the things that we're able to do. This might look like sand tray therapy, group sessions such as yoga. We're also hoping to provide maybe some self-defense classes and more group approaches in the future. It might be doing some things like drawing or artwork. Being able to express the things we've experienced and our feelings and thoughts about ourselves, about others in our society, without ever having to say a word about it, if that's what we need. Or it might be just being able to talk about it and work through it. This can look a lot of different ways, and it really depends on the purpose, on the person. So again, it's not just somebody laying on a couch and talking about what used to happen, or just two people talking back and forth between each other. We're also working on construction for our Holistic Healing Center here in our Paducah location. And so we're hoping to be able to provide even more kind of different methods for healing. Again, with those yoga services, hopefully some self-defense classes, as well as other classes for the community, because not everybody's ready to just participate immediately in some kind of individual therapy, but they might be more comfortable participating in something as a group. We really want to be able to reach as many people as we can. So why is that important, right? Why is it important that in the community we have a center that is free of charge where survivors can come and get help? Has anyone here ever heard of the ACEs study? Okay. ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Events. The ACEs study started back in the 80s, and it was somebody that was actually just looking at why individuals who were participating in a study to decrease their weight were dropping out. This doctor couldn't figure out why people were just dropping out of his study. So he started asking the participants what was happening for them to stop participating, for them to stop coming to treatment when they were losing weight and it was working for them. And what he ended up finding is that events that we've experienced in childhood impact our health as adults, both our mental health and our physical health. In fact, because of these initial findings, they started collecting even more information about what kind of events what kind of adverse child events people experience. And what this groundbreaking research has shown us is that individuals who've experienced neglect, physical abuse, or sexual abuse in childhood, some kind of other interpersonal violence or loss, such as separation from a parent because of divorce, just separation, or they've passed away, will have increased risk later on for health problems like diabetes or heart disease, and mental health problems like depression or suicidal ideation. This was astounding to us in the field, right? Because we were able to see that all these things that happened in the past really does help predict some things that are happening in our future. But the good news is that with that research, we also have information that lets us know that treatment can help to change these outcomes. That effective therapy services that are based on the research, based on research-based practices, can help individuals to change those things so that we're not seeing that outcome decades down the road of heart disease or diabetes or depression. So that's why it's really important to have that in the community. And if individuals who haven't experienced assault contact our center, we're able to work with other centers, community mental health centers around our service area to make sure they get the treatment they need. Because again, trauma is not just about sexual violence, it's about all those other pieces too, up to and including divorce, which is something pretty common in our society. So that's enough for our clinical program. Just to give you some information about our advocacy program, advocacy can mean a lot. It look a lot of different ways depending on the person that needs those type of services. This might be family advocacy, where as Anna mentioned, we're helping individuals get in touch with the resources they need in the community. A lot of times we see transportation, childcare, and other barriers for individuals wanting to get help, but they have all these other things going on. They don't have the money for gas to get there because they need to pay their bills, or maybe their electricity got cut off. So our goal is not to just treat this tiny little portion that's about trauma, that's about the specific allegation, the thing that happened to them, but to treat them as an entire person, because we know if you don't approach that person as an entire person, you're probably not going to make a big impact. Another arm of advocacy is our medical advocacy. I don't know if everyone is aware of it, but if an individual who has experienced sexual violence, no matter what their age, presents at the hospital because of what happened to them, they have the right for an advocate. The hospitals are required to call the local rape crisis center, which is PASAC here in your service area, and we will send an advocate out to the hospital so that that individual isn't alone. When interpersonal violence like that happens, we are not prepared to know what to do next. And because of that, the state has said, we want you to have someone there with you. We want you to know we want you to understand everything that they are doing, from the very first question and test all the way till you go home that night, so that we can know what's going to happen after that. Do we have a plan to keep you safe? A plan to get you help? So again, just really trying to approach that person with our advocacy as a whole individual. We also provide legal advocacy, and that's something that we're providing more and more of. This might be going with a survivor to a police interview or an interview with DCBS, social services. It might be going with them to court if they choose to go to some of those preliminary hearings. And then definitely going with them if there's some sort of jury trial or further justice system interaction. Again, that's because our justice system can be really confusing. I know it was for me, it still is for me, and I work in the field, and we want to help our survivors know exactly what's happening right now, and as much as we can, what's going to happen next, because what they experienced was their control being taken away from them. And so we want to do everything we can to give that control back and keep this within their realm of understanding and control. So why is that important? Why is advocacy important? That might seem like an obvious question, but researchers like to do research so we can prove something's being effective, right? What we found is that if we can give a survivor support from the very beginning of making a report, whether that just be reporting to our agency because they want therapy services or reporting to the police for a legal investigation, if we can help them feel supported and heard from the very beginning, survivors are more likely to continue going through that justice system so that we can see justice done. If we can work as a team and maybe only talk to that survivor one time or only as many times as absolutely necessary instead of each individual person involved talking to that survivor, we're being more trauma-centered and trauma-informed and helping them stay involved with the process as far as they want to. Also helping their voice be heard, right? So when they no longer want to be part of that process, or maybe they only want to be part of some pieces of it and not others, helping to make sure that the individuals, officers and prosecutors, social workers, are hearing that survivor's voice and what they want to happen. Because again, we want to be able to give them back control and make this not such a scary process. One of the other things I wanted to mention today as we talk about sexual assault in our community and what we can do to help people is some of the reporting laws. Are some of you aware of the reporting laws as far as if someone told you about an incident of sexual violence? My friend over here. So for people who are under the age of 18, so children, minors, who report an incident of sexual violence happening to them, and they're still under the age of 18, that we are all mandatory reporters. So everyone would have to report that to social services, centralized intake, and we're happy to provide you with that number. That is because we want that child, right? We don't want them to continue to be abused. We already know what the ACEs study told us about needing to get help as early as possible to prevent future health concerns. So we want to get them help as soon as possible. And we also don't want the person that hurt them to hurt anyone else. That's why that mandatory law is the way it is. Now, if individuals call our center who are over the age of 18, they're adults, and they report to us an incident of an assault, that is not a mandatory report. So that's not something where we would call the police or ask you to call the police, unless that's what you wanted to do, and then we'd help you through that process. So I know I gave you a lot of information today, guys. Do you have any questions for me about that process? Our clinical services, advocacy, or why they are the way they are? All right. We also provide those forensic interview services. I think I'm going to hand it over.
Sure.
Real quick, and then I can talk about them later. You want me to talk about them right now?
Yeah, talk about them now.
Okay,
Go
good
for
deal.
it.
Good deal. So when I say forensic interview, or I tell people I'm a forensic interviewer, that's what I do with my license. That's what I do for a living. They say, oh, okay. No idea what that is. And I understand. You don't hear that title often. A forensic interviewer is a mental health professional who is specifically trained to provide fact-finding interviews with children and vulnerable adults during the course of a legal investigation. So that's kind of like the official definition, right? What that means is whenever it's been reported to the police or social services that there is an incident of assault, they often call the Children's Advocacy Center to get that child interviewed, to be able to get that statement from the kiddo. Instead of interviewing that child in their home where the abuse might have happened, interviewing a kiddo who has a negative relationship with law enforcement and might not want to talk to the law enforcement officer or the social service worker. And instead of doing it in a place that looks like the police department or the hospital or the social service office, right? Because those aren't the most child-friendly locations all the time. The Children's Advocacy Center is specifically designed to be child-friendly and family-focused. The forensic interview room has tiny tables and tiny chairs so the little bitty ones can feel comfortable sitting at something appropriate rather than a big grown-up chair that feels really intimidating when somebody's asking them questions. I'm trained to collect information in a way that's going to be legally defensible while still putting that child's mental health and well-being first. Because again, I have that therapy background. This way, we can get the information the criminal justice system and prosecution system needs to be able to do justice for this report, as well as ensuring the safety and well-being of that child and making sure that we don't do anything that would cause harm. Because just like the medical community, our first guideline is to do no harm. So that's just kind of a snippet of that forensic program. I really appreciate your attention, guys. If you have a question now, I'd be happy to take it or talk with you at the end, maybe when we wrap up. Thanks so much.
My turn. Hello, I'm back. So just to hit on Nichole, so what she does is so amazing. I have been told by numerous people that it's really hard to talk to a child about what's happened to them and it not be re-traumatizing. And that is her job, is to get that out. And so for me, I have a background in social work, and so I know how traumatizing a lot of that process can be. And so when I came to PASAC and started working and I found out all the different parts and pieces, that was the one that impacted me the most, is that there is actually someone there to talk to that child and get that information in a way that's not going to further hurt them. So that's just me bragging on Nichole.
Thank you, friend.
So now I really just want to tell you all what you can do, because we always need help, and we understand that people really connect with our mission, because a lot of people have been touched in some form or fashion by sexual assault or abuse of some kind, and that's just the stats. And so really my job is to empower all of you to help us in our mission. And so that can look very different for everyone. When I was younger, that looked like me just volunteering. And I say just volunteering because at the time I felt like that's all it was. I was just volunteering. I might have come and cleaned up an office. I might have come and donated some things, just dropped stuff off. But now that I'm in this work, I understand just how impactful that really is. And we are literally like right over there. So you don't have to go far. One of the biggest volunteer opportunities that we're really trying to push right now is crisis response. So we actually have a SART coordinator, sexual assault response team coordinator, who is on call during the work hours from Monday through Friday. So if we have a call come in that someone has come into a hospital and said they have been sexually assaulted in some form or fashion, she is the one who goes. That is her job. She's on call during the workday. And so we actually have volunteers who volunteer to do that, call them crisis response, and they do that as from the workday closes until it starts the next day. so that Stacy, our SAR coordinator, can sleep. And they're amazing. I cannot put into words just how much we love our crisis response volunteers in particular. And so the thing with that is it is a lot of dedication. You have to be dedicated to do that. And we do provide a training, so we're not just like throwing you in and saying good luck. We do provide a training, and you can sign up for what hospitals you want to cover and things like that. Lila Bacon is actually, who's right here, she's actually our volunteer engagement coordinator. So if you have any questions about that, please let her know. And we do have a sign-up sheet over here at our table. And then the other thing I want to talk to you all about is, even though you all are college students, it's really important for people to know our programming and our prevention programs exist. And that's one of the big things that we are really trying to do is make sure people know that our prevention programs are there, and they're there to help, and they're free. They're free. And so that's one of the big things we're trying to push right now. I have been into a couple of different high schools. Lila's actually been into a couple elementary schools working with kids. In case you're wondering, kindness program with elementary school kids is the cutest thing in the world. But that's just some of the things we do. We don't just talk about heavy subjects like sexual assault and things like that. We do start with things that are a little bit less severe with younger kids. So we talk about kindness and compassion and acceptance and just kind of lay those building blocks in that groundwork. We do internet safety. We do bullying and bystander intervention. Really, we're just trying to empower everyone to see that wherever you are in your small little bubble or your network, you can make a difference and you can help us end violence here in the community. And so the other big thing is Start Just to Light, which I mentioned earlier. So as Nichole went over, all of us here are mandatory reporters, every single one of us. And that is terrifying. I don't know if any of you had experience trying to make a report or making a report. I did when I was getting my social work degree. Unfortunately enough, I was in that position, and I was trained to do it already, and it is so scary on what to do and the information you need, and trying not to ask a child too many questions and trying not to re-traumatize, but to get the information and make sure it's taken seriously. And all these things are going through your head. And so that's what Darkness to Light program is all about. It's taking out that fear. We equip you with exactly what to do and what not to do, which is equally important. And with that one, it only costs $5 a person or just donation. We've done it in churches, we've done it with community groups, we have done it with anyone really who will take it and listen and will help us really try to end child sexual abuse in the Purchase area. And so please let us know or let people know about us. I think all of us have our cards here if you wanna take one and share with someone. We're trying to get into all the schools and things like that and just share that programming and really empower and educate people on what they can do to help us in our mission. And just overall to keep the Purchase area, especially McCracken County, a much safer place. So does anybody have any questions? There really is no dumb question, I promise. I work in high school sometimes, so I've heard them. No?
I was assured that if someone asked a question, I might be able to throw this box. I will toss it, I promise. Anyone gonna let me fulfill that dream?
We don't get to throw things I don't get to throw things very often because I'm in middle school with like middle school boys. We don't give them things to throw, it could get really dangerous. So we get to throw things right now. Anybody? No?
And if not, that's okay, guys. If you wanna come up and talk to us afterwards, talk to us about the way to get involved. We have a lot of different, different volunteer opportunities. So we wanna make sure we match you to what you wanna do if you're interested in gardening. And sewing, and having direct contact with people. If you just like cleaning and neatening up or being part of this bigger mission.
Or if you have volunteer hours for classes, like I always did. We're super fun to volunteer with. I'm a little biased, but we're super fun. So come talk to us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening. We also have more information on the table over here if you all want to grab it, and some free bracelets and stickers. Thank you all.